evening, everybody. On behalf of the Southern India Regional Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, with so much of honor, we are presenting before you the PP Gururaja Upadhyaya Memorial Lecture. I would like to request that today's president of this function, C.A.R. Bhubadi sir, our valuable honorable past president of ICAI, and the today's speaker, C.A.S.A. Murali Prasad sir, to come on dais, please. And I also request C.A.G. Saraswati madam, daughter of our most respectful P.P. Gururaja Upadhyaya sir, to come on dais, please. We will start the proceedings of this lecture by playing the motto song of the institute. I request everyone to stand up as a mark of respect for this great institution. We would like to acknowledge the valuable presence of Sri Rajaratnam sir, our former member ITAT, and our Chartered Accountant Rajendra Kumar, member elect Central Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. This program is being conducted with the ICAI election code in force, and the SIRC has been conducting the memorial lectures in honor and in remembrance of members who have contributed for the profession and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in this part of the country. Certain memorial lectures are sponsored by the family members. Certain memorial lectures are coordinated by august institutions like Society of Auditors, Rangasamy Institute for Fiscal Research and Development. This SIRC on its own has constituted this, set up this memorial lecture in recognition of the great Chartered Accountant P.P. Gururaja Upadhyaya. And he was a Central Council member during 1997. And on behalf of the SIRC and the office bearers and the office of the SIRC and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I extend a very warm welcome to our today's president of this function, our past president R. Bhubadi sir, who himself is a great teacher. And I am also take the privilege of welcoming our today's speaker, that C.A.S.A. Murali Prasad sir, who is going to give the memorial lecture on the topic changing landscaping of auditing. And we also welcome the dignitaries, invitees, members of the institute and the students. Primarily the Upadhyaya Memorial Lecture is primarily meant for the students. So we develop some sort of awareness about the contribution of a great soul like P.P. Gururaja sir, and we are also invited our members also for this lecture as a invitation. And with this, I request the dignitaries and the family members and our members to proceed to pay floral tributes to our most respected late P.P. Gururaja Upadhyaya sir. Sir. We request members, if you are interested to pay floral tributes, you are welcome. Pardon, sir. A brief introduction about this memorial lecture. Late Sri C.A. P.P. Gururaja Upadhyaya, membership number 5697. The SIRC, as I was introducing, SIRC has instituted P.P. Gururaja Upadhyaya Memorial Fund in memory of late P.P. Gururaja Upadhyaya sir, former Central Council member, who was member in the 1997 Council. He was born on 28th December 1937. And he was chairman of Board of Studies of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He thought it appropriate to introduce the newsletter separately for newsletter for the students that shows the vision of our Gururaja ji. And when I'm interacting with very senior chartered accountants, many of them happen to be students of our late Upadhyaya sir, and particularly the income tax paper, the way in which he has been teaching and he has been inspiring the young minds on this information, that income tax. And as an officer worked in Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Delhi office, I had an occasion to attend the deliberations of the Central Council, in which Upadhyaya sir used to be deliberating. And we can, at that time itself, we used to wonder the foresight and the thought process, how they are willing to build the future of the chartered accountancy profession and the institute. So we used to be very much impressed with not only the students and the fellow members, but also the executives. Executives also, we are very much impressed the way in which he has been deliberating in the Central Council. And it is very imperative to mention Upadhyaya sir lived in his life with simplicity, preached discipline, led a poet's life and showed affection with human touch to all. Whoever knows, whoever personally interacted with him will vouch for his simplicity and he is not only touching the minds by way of the lectures and the coaching classes, but also he touched the heart of individuals, leaving everlasting memory in their hearts. And his passion for teaching and affection towards the students of the CA course is boundless, and his commitment to the profession was complete. And we are honored, SIRC is honored to conduct this memorial lecture as an annual feature. And this year we are presenting before you this Gururaja Upadhyaya memorial lecture on a topic, contemporary topic, namely changing landscaping of auditing. And we have honored to have the presence of CA Bhubadi sir amongst us to lead give the inaugural address. And a brief about our past president, though it is known to each and every one of us, and still number of students are gathered here. I take this opportunity to introduce. Bhubadi sir is a commerce graduate from Vivekananda College, Chennai, and a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And he has served as a resource person in taxation in Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the Loyola Institute of Business Administration and other professional institutions in South and throughout India and abroad. He also served as a chairman of International Fiscal Association India branch, Southern region for the term 2006-8. And Sir has served as a member of the Central Council of ICAI for a period of 9 years and occupied the position of President of ICAI for the year 2003 and 4. I request you to join your hands to give me a very warm welcome. And apart from that, he has occupied a number of positions and important critical positions of students related international education standards at the level of IFAC, International Federation of Accountants, which is an association of more than 150 professional accounting bodies in the entire world. We are honored with your presence, sir. And our CA, Murali Prasad sir, today's speaker for this memorial lecture, is a chartered accountant and he has passed postgraduate examinations in management accounting, statistical quality control and operations research. He was the chief of finance in a joint venture company with Fortune 500 Corporation in USA prior to starting his own practice in 1977. He is the founder director of a leading company in Chennai which provides consultancy in industrial studies, project feasibility analysis, project financing, corporate turnaround, financial restructuring, mergers and takeovers, and so on and so forth. And the institute, I must place on record, the institute is very fortunate to have him as a resource person in a number of CPE programs. The value addition which he has made, in many CPE programs. I still recall that we have requested him for an in-company training program for a Punjab National Bank at Mumbai. And the participants, the very senior members of Punjab National Bank, when he has completed his lecture in Mumbai, they have given a standing ovation at that time. So that is the level of their knowledge level and the expertise. And we are honored once again, sir, for your valuable presence and agreeing to provide this lecture. And I request Bhubadi sir to give his presidential comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parameswaram, for the kind words you expressed about all of us. CA Murali Prasad, CA Saraswati, daughter of my beloved teacher, late PP Gururaja Upadhyaya, Mr. Rajaratnam, Mr. Rajendra Kumar, Central Council member elect, Mr. Shiv Kumar, my classmate, and the band behind the show, inspiring people to see this program goes on in the best manner possible. Let me begin by placing my sincere thanks to the family members of late Gururaja Upadhyaya for inviting me to preside over this important memorial lecture. I am happy to preside over this meeting. In fact, the more appropriate word would be, instead of happy, I am blessed to preside over this meeting. For many reasons. First, I am able to have a reconnect with the family members of late P.P. Gururaja Upadhyaya, whom I have known them from their students' days. You will see the connect. Sri Gururaja Upadhyaya was my teacher and I was her teacher. So it continues. It's also important because I get an opportunity to meet Mr. S. A. Murali Prasad, whom we had occasion to meet more often in the past, and to listen to him on a very important topic. It also gives me another opportunity to interact with the CA fraternity, who I always recognize and wherever possible extend a helping hand to them. The topic which Mr. Murali Prasad is going to speak, changing landscape of auditing. Everything is changing. The way we did auditing when in those years when we did articles in 72, 75, and now what they do is totally different. And I'm sure Murali Prasad has got enough in his bag to tell you what is stored for next 3 years, next 5 years. Even what we do now is going to get outdated. If you see the Hindu paper, read the Hindu paper, there's one caption coming up in the Hindu paper. This day, 30 years ago. This day, 25 years ago. This day, 1937. 28th of December 1937 was the day on which our Gururaja Upadhyaya was born. Had he been alive today, he would have completed 81 years and we all would have gone to him in person to take his blessings. That is why I said we are here, we are blessed. Even the students who are assembled here, all of you are blessed. And I'm sure if you are expecting results, you get positive results. Having said about this, the objective of any memorial lecture, because certain people have become great of some exceptional qualities in them, the principles they adopted, the values they have inbuilt in them, this has to be highlighted at regular intervals so that the future generations could imbibe these good qualities and take the profession ahead. The students have got the important responsibility of seeing that the flag of the profession is kept aloft in the Committee of Nations. Therefore, these type of principles should be repeated as many times as possible. That is why we take great persons like Gururaja Upadhyaya and to speak about his qualities. Paramasivam has given a gist of it, but having associated with him in many ways, which I'll tell little while from now, is a very simple and pious gentleman, a great believer in God. And the way he used to come to the sessions, he gave importance to the traditional dress. If you see his photograph also, you will know he will come for any meeting, maybe it's an international meeting or a meeting within India, in the same Indian traditional dress, and he will feel proud of having worn that dress. It could be easily recognized. Habits. One special feature, 1970, BCom college, BCom, Vivekananda College, visiting professor in accountancy. He will come to the class, climb the podium, or the sort of a desk will be there, he will climb there, and the first thing he will do is remove his slippers and then only start teaching. The respect he had for the subject and the respect he had for the teaching fraternity. Certain small things which go a long way. Subject knowledge, great in-depth knowledge in subjects, strong in principles, and he will always have conviction in whatever he says, clarity in communication, and he'll fight till the end. Fight till the end, and if he is convinced with his argument, he will not leave it, and he will not mince words. He will directly tell, be it an officer or a commissioner or some senior level, he will openly tell them, this is my view and I feel my view is correct. The conviction, the courage, humility. These are good qualities. Each one of us, he rose up to the position of Central Council member. And in one of the meetings, people came to him and expressed to him, sir, you have been teaching and your knowledge in the subject taxation is acknowledged across India. Then they requested him, why don't you author a book? Why don't you write a book in income tax? I have no hesitation in sharing with you the answer which he gave to the person who asked this question in a public forum. Nobody would have done this, given this answer. And he gave this answer straight, without thinking for a minute, he gave this answer. He said, I have confidence in my speaking ability. I do not have the same confidence in my writing potential. This is what he said. It is very difficult for somebody to accept in a public that this is some sort of a weakness. So he said that very openly, and he when he comes to expressing, he was very clear, and he did very nicely. And these are the qualities which made him a great teacher. When Shivakumar asked me to preside over this memorial lecture, I thought for a moment, what is my association and why I should be called? Then I relived my past. Now I notice Vivekananda College, BCom, visiting professor in accountancy, straight away he will come and start partnership accounts. I remember that even after so many years. Difficult things, he will work out the solutions and give us an answer, and he will also say, this is where this book has made a mistake, this has to be corrected this manner. When it came to CA, after BCom I joined CA. I come here to the institute premises and taxation classes. He used to come with all sincerity. Normally 6:30 to 8:30, 8:25, 8:20 people will get tired, he'll leave. But he will continue, 8:30 only he'll leave, and even after that he'll stay back to answer our questions. These are qualities which we acquired from him. Then after CA, see the link. From students' days, BCom, CA, and after CA, when we enter the profession, any doubt in taxation, any practical problem, the officer is raising this issue, we are not able to answer him. He is little bit very firm in his answers. The officer, he will say, don't worry, you give a reply like this. He will take it in the right spirit and clarify all our doubts. So in the profession, he has taken the role of an advisor. Incidentally, he also helped me in a different way, although he is not aware of it. The family members may not be aware of it. I had to acquire a property. I want to buy a property, and the documents for the property was very complex. The very complex document. There was a purchaser has acquired the property by dissolution of a partnership. Original landowners introduced the land in the partnership. Within few months, the firm was dissolved, and the individual owner, somebody got the ownership. From them, I have to buy the property. I was confused. I said, no, I'm not going to buy this property. And somewhere in the file, I saw an opinion signed by Mr. Gururaja Upadhyaya. And I said, this gentleman has given an opinion, this should be very correct, therefore I go by his word, and I purchased the property. I stayed in that property for 32 years and recently only 18. So, the link, student, college, CA profession, Hindi profession, helping to purchase a property, then council, the final stage income. 1988 to 97, Parmas. He entered the council in 1988. 97. 94, I entered the council. We were together in the council for a term of 3 years. Board of Studies, first year chairman. He is the vice chairman. He is the vice chairman, and the way he helped us in taking crucial decisions. Number of students have gathered here for their information and for the information of some of the members. I would like to very clearly tell, he was a strength, giving very candid views. He will not speak much, but he will give his views forthright. We had two initiatives, which is even today continuing. One is quiz competition, was introduced in 94, and he supported the Board of Studies extensively and said this is being introduced, and even today the quiz competition is continuing. Oratorical contest, that also in that period, and here it is. These two things, as Chairman Board of Studies and he as the Vice Chairman, jointly work together and see that it is done, and it is done effectively for the benefit of students. Parmasum said his love and affection to students, great, phenomenal. He will go any stretch to help the students. There's one initiative, he had strong views against the initiative. This is what you all, the present, the future members who are involved in the institute activities should note. His attitude, his behavior, the principles which he put forth to all of us is very, very important. When it came to the members in industry, we had an important new scheme which came up during that period, which is known as the placement for chartered accountants, campus placements. For the first time it was introduced. And Mr. Gururaja Upadhyaya was not a member of that particular committee. When that matter went before the council, he had strong views, very strong views, and he spoke very authoritatively, not for the campus, but against the campus. He had strong views. You could always have, doesn't matter on that. But then it was approved by the council and it is implemented. Even today it's continuing. But the gentleman, the moment the council approved it, he said it's a council decision, I respect the council decision. He had individual views. When it comes to the council decision, he respects the council decisions. And after 2 years, when he found that the campus placement was going well, he came and told the council itself, saying that I agree that this is a good thing for the institute. So these are things which definitely make him a very great person. Now coming to the person, C.A. Murali Prasad, who is going to give you this memorial lecture over, say, changing landscapes in auditing. There is a postgraduate course in CA, Management Accountancy course. Whenever that course, there used to be a training program. Shivakumar will be aware, and Murali Prasad was regularly helping the students there. Much sought out of lectures, very soft spoken. You will understand, you listen to him, how the words will flow, and that modulation of voice. So, even as late as 2012, I asked him, how is he keeping himself busy? He says, I am in active practice. I even now continue my consultancy. Very glad when people like me think of, say, retiring. Now he's an inspiring force for all of us. Now, little did I know that he is also having a musical background. In the sense, his sister is S.A. Durga, a very renowned musician. She was in the Madras University, and she was taught by Mr. Srinivasan and Balamurali Krishna. So, such a very eminent person to share his ideas on what is in store for us in the auditing profession. Now, when I get an opportunity to interact with students, I see quite a few students occupying the rows in the end. I thought, what message I should give them. I knew some students will be here, therefore I prepared some points. I was thinking what caption to give, whether to say it is blessings or whether to say suggestions and advice. If I say blessings, I make myself appear a little older than what I am. If I say suggestions and advice, it's not an acceptable term these days. Because in this world, there are only two groups of people. One who give the advice, the other who don't take the advice. So if that is the case, therefore I refrain from using these words, suggestion and advice, but I will sprinkle some ideas, some thoughts arising out of our own experience. Whatever is appropriate to you, you could take it and take it. Whatever is relevant for you, whatever you feel is good for you, you could catch these ideas and take it home. And if you feel it's good, you could acknowledge also later on. First thing, for the students, pre-qualification, post-qualification, while you are doing your CA. First thing I would like to say is, control your mind. Because today, what's happening is, there are too many distractions. And the greatest disadvantage for the present day student is knowledge explosion. You get information from varied sources. I do not know whether this information is all verified information. So with the result, you are confused at the end. At the time of the examination, you are confused. So what I would suggest to all of you is, be focused, select on something. You have confidence in one particular author. Read his book, read the material, be thorough with it, take the exam, be successful. Don't waver here and there, then it becomes difficult. Analyze your own strength, as Mr. Upadhyaya did it. He knew his strengths, he knew his weakness also. He identified. Don't compare. Some student reading 6 hours a day gets the first rank. He has done only 6 hours, I will also do 6 hours. It will not work. You may have your own limitations. Identify your own weaknesses and try to address those weaknesses, then you will be sound. One common thing which I note today, which is across the student fraternity and including the members fraternity, I will say, that we have lost the touch of writing. Our writing skills are disappearing. Even in our own offices, we sit before a computer and start keying in. We don't write. Unfortunately, CA exams are still to be written on paper and pen. 3 hours of writing, some students come and complain, my 2 fingers pain, sir. Because they are not used to holding a pen for 3 hours. So, get trained. That's why in some of the offices, we have a thing that students have to write some article every month, and it should not be typed in a computer, it has to be written by hand, so that they develop the writing skills. So, lastly, I would like to say before qualification, sustained efforts. You work hard, but just nearing the examination, you are so exhausted, you are so tired that you don't bring out your best. So work hard, sustained efforts is very important. Post-qualification, just a few points and I am through with it. Connect with people. I am not saying connect through the WhatsApp group, that is also there, but connect in a very literal sense. I ask a person who is a CA, and after CA he is going to do MBA in IM. Ask him, you already done a professional course, why you want to do IM in any of the recognized institutes? He gives one reason. Apart from the educational content and knowledge which he gets, he says the people who come there are 30 people in the class. All the 30 people, after passing, will occupy senior positions in various companies. I will be in touch with them, and later on, if I want something to be done at different industries, at a touch of a button, I will get to know things and I get networking. That's why I said connect with people. And some people connect with people whenever they want their help. No, don't be that way. Connect to them on a regular basis. Regular basis, some general communication. That is what is important. Comparison, avoid. Comparison is something which is a root cause for all problems. Somebody is destined to have more practice, more wealth, more knowledge, more fame, everything. And you get unhappy over it, you will remain unhappy. Same quality students, two people getting different placements. Always there, cannot help it. Try to identify your own strength and project it. Control finances. Control your credit card. EMI is a bad word. Bad expression. EMI for a house is okay. EMI for a car is okay. But EMI for an electronic gadget is questionable. What people do is, when they get a spurt in income, immediately they enter into long-term commitments. EMI, then itself it becomes a threat on you. There only you start bending values in life. You start bending principles in life. So be careful about that. I'm not saying you should not take a loan for housing. Take a loan for housing, but don't take a loan for buying a TV. Don't take a loan for buying a mobile phone. That's really not required. I do not know how many of you agree with me. That's why I said I sprinkle these ideas. Whatever you want, you can take it home. This is what, if you note, all these four things which I just now told you, begin with the alphabet C. Connect with people, communicate with people, comparison you should avoid, control your finances. And the last C is be prepared for compromises. Be prepared for compromises. All things what you expect will not happen. Somewhere you have to give in. Somebody says he's an independent person. Who is independent today? There is nothing like independent. Okay? Independent, if it divided into two parts, is an oxymoron. It will not be there at all. Examples: independent husband. Now, are they really independent? No, we have so many situations. You cannot have like that. So be prepared for some compromises. Above all, I saw a letter written by a CEO of a company to its marketing force. That year, that company did extremely well, huge profits. So the entire marketing team got a good incentive, performance incentive. Each one of them got a few lakhs of rupees. The CEO writes a letter to all the employees. This year we have done exceedingly well. We thank you for all the efforts and for your contribution for the success of the company. We are giving you a sum of this much as incentive, performance incentive. And then the last sentence is very critical, very important. He says, please be careful. That's a one-time payment. It may not recur next year. Plan your commitments accordingly. So if you get some huge money and get into a long-term commitment, you get into problems. That is a letter which a CEO writes to the marketing force. Hope I'm making sense to all of you, that you have to be a little careful, then life will become. And some of the youngsters find in their anxiety to earn money and to acquire knowledge also, they work against nature and work more than the number of hours for which their body could take. With the result, when they reach the age of 40, they are burnt out persons. Burnt out persons in the sense they are not able to live a normal life. So earning money is good, but find your own limitations, what your body could permit, and see that you enjoy a good work-life balance. Easy to say, difficult to implement, but we are here to do difficult things. Let us take that So overall, build some value systems in life and progress well in the profession. I should congratulate those of you who have entered the CA course. You have taken the right decision, work hard, you will be crowned with success, and follow some of these principles and you'll be successful in life. With this, let me have the pleasure of inviting CA Murali Prasad to deliver his memorial lecture, PP Gururaja Upadhyaya Memorial Lectures, 16th memorial lecture if I had counted it correctly. Because 2012 was the 10th. If I take it that way, it should be 16th memorial lecture. Changing landscape in auditing. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sorry? Yes.
What's the name of file, sir? Name of file,
File is open.
File. Sorry?
File is already open.
File already open. Created. All file.
I see. Yes. Where the cursor is. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this memorial lecture. You heard a very fascinating speech by the President. I'm sure that all of you will cherish the kind of ideas he sprinkled on you. Many of those ideas and advice are certainly worth following. We tend to forget some values in our daily hurry-burry life, and it's good to have somebody to remind you of these. Today's occasion is the memorial lecture for Mr. Gururaja Upadhyaya. I first want to recall my association with him. I was privileged to do my articles in the same firm where he did his articles. Excepting that as I joined the firm for my articles in 1962, he was just completing his articleship. If I remember right, he had appeared for the final examination. And looking back, I think we were together in the firm for a very brief period. I think by the time he set out to have his own practice, we must have been together about 4 or 5 months. But looking back, I can see a lot of things which Mr. Bhupati said about him. I can see a lot of them were there even when he was a student. And that's, I think, the interesting part. So his value systems were kind of ingrained in him, including this, tendency to fight an issue to the logical end. I still remember that that was his trait as a very young person. It was also his trait that he stood by his convictions. A reference was made to his sartorial preferences, the way he dressed in ethnic style. In fact, I'm somewhat surprised to note that we were more Anglo-Saxon those days than we are today. I see today people are willing to sport an ethnic style. They are prepared to sport it in public. They don't mind being seen with their ethnic culture being predominant. But in our days, I think it was very surprisingly, that was not the case. I think we were all brought up in an Anglo-Saxon kind of regime, where to speak English, to wear a trouser and a shirt was kind of necessary. And if you had a hairstyle which was different, if you had a dress that was different, other people ridiculed you. The tolerance for a different way of living your life, I think, was less in those days than it is today. I can see a lot of young people today sporting a mark on their forehead. In our days, I think it was much less. It was much less, and that is because young people today are very independent, and I'm very glad about that. You are born in a country which never saw a foreign rule. We were all born in a country where we saw foreign rule. We may have been very young at that time, but we were born in a slave country, and therefore it had its impact on our culture. But you are all born in a free country, and therefore I think you will be different. And it's a great tribute to Mr. Gururaja Upadhyaya that in a period when such freedom was not common, he had decided to go on his own way, no matter what other people thought about him, no matter that he was not a conformist to the kind of new traditions that were coming up. So, all in all, I think I have memories of him which breed respect, which breed certain appreciation for the values for which he stood. And I can only say that Mr. Bhupati recounted all of them very well, and that should tell you about the man. This is an occasion to pay tributes to a departed soul, and no way that we can pay a tribute better than recalling what values he stood for and what he tried to achieve in his life, which is more important. Now we will come to the topic of the day, which is the changing landscape, not the changing landscaping, you kindly drop that word, changing landscape of auditing. I intend to deal with it in two parts. The legislative landscape and the technology landscape. I could have thought of several other landscapes for auditing, but I thought it wise to keep it to two of them. The legislative landscape of auditing and the technology landscape of auditing. You must have read the news items, recent news items, which highlight what kind of new thinking has come in relation to the subject of auditing. It is not about the techniques, it is not about the tools, it is about the auditor's liability. And I am referring to the development, the regulatory landscape in India in the form of bringing into existence the NAFRA, as it is affectionately called, the National Financial Reporting Authority. Sorry. The question is, we already have the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and do we have the need for one more of a regulatory body? The institute was constituted under an Act of Parliament and as representatives of the government on it. But the new body will, So what's happening is that NEFRA will be a body which in the United States is called the Public Accounting Oversight Board. This is not a malady with India. Now this is a malady everywhere in the world, where they believe that the accountancy body cannot regulate itself. The accountancy profession cannot regulate itself. And you have the Public Oversight Board in the Public Accounting Oversight Board in the United States. And as always, we copy what other countries do, whether it is accounting standards, auditing standards, whatever. We never think on our own. And promptly we copied this Public Accounting Oversight Board. The question is, of course, initially it will be restricted to the auditors of the listed companies and the large unlisted companies. Does it mean an end to the ICAI's own oversight role in respect of this class of auditors? It will be very strange if one class of auditors were outside the jurisdiction of the institute. Now, will that be the consequence? It looks like it will be the consequence. SEBI is also intervening to take action against auditors of listed companies. SEBI has no jurisdiction with that large unlisted companies, but it has jurisdiction over the listed companies. So it is also trying to take action against the auditors of listed companies. So two bodies now getting into the area which was exclusively that of the institute. And someone wrote that in future the ICAI may be left to be an examining body. One hopes that it doesn't happen. Then there is this idea of fast tracking of all pending inquiry cases and try and take it up for inquiry and dispose of them quickly. Hurrying proceedings may not always result in justice. And you have this new trend coming up that we want to fast track them. And then the Supreme Court observation saying action can be taken against a chartered accountant even if for a misconduct, what could be conduct that brings the profession into disrepute, even if it does not relate to professional work. A chartered accountant, action can be taken for drunken driving, for a street brawl, now for any of them. So there is a widening of that liability, of that liability to face disciplinary proceedings. In respect of misconduct, which is not related to the conduct at work. All this is a result of the regulators believing that more regulation and stringent implementation of existing regulations will improve audit quality. It's a big question mark. Legislation cannot build audit quality no more than it can build morality in society. So it's a futile attempt at trying to build audit quality by merely making your regulations tighter. But in effect, what will happen is that the audit firms will find it difficult to survive. The 7th largest audit firm in the United States had to close its doors because of lawsuits. And there is a big question mark, therefore, over the sustainability of company audits themselves, if this is what is going to happen in the future. So you can see that this regulation is a kind of double-edged sword. In a way, it looks like being good because it will bring errant auditors to book. There are auditors there are cases of failure of companies, of frauds by management, where auditors could have acted with greater diligence and they did not act. So there seems to be a case for more regulation. But it is important that it is taken as Mr. Upadhyaya pointed out, life is full of compromises. So somewhere you will have to draw a line that you can't have stringent regulation and hope that that will build the audit quality. The good news, if you look at global scenario, is that in the United States, between 1996 and 2016, because everything happens in the US 20 years ahead of what happens here. The number of lawsuits per year and settlements have declined. Settlement out of court, which normally the American audit firms do. So when there is a case coming up, they don't let that go to the end. They settle it out of court. And cases where lawsuits have been dismissed by courts has also increased. There is one good news. The question, of course, is that is a reduction due to improvement in audit quality? Question mark. I just put a question mark because I don't know whether it is that. But it looks like, from what I have read, it looks like that it is due to a more liberal interpretation of auditors' liability by US courts. The US courts have realized that you can't dig deep into a case of corporate wrongdoing and always at the end find the auditor is the scapegoat. The courts have taken a much broader view. The courts have taken a view that there can be instances where the auditor could not have done anything better than what he did, except in those cases where there is a criminal negligence. But other than that, the courts have taken a liberal view. But as against that, in our country, we are now going through a period of judicial activism, where the judges believe that they can be the arbiter of religious practices. They can be the arbiter of everything under the sun. And now the latest is the audit quality. And we'll wait and see. This is part of the activism that we are seeing today. That is so far as the legislative change is concerned. Let's come to the less controversial but very potent change which is happening in the field of technology. We all agree technology can change the way audit is performed. Technology has changed the way audit is performed. Today's audit is no patch on the kind of audit that we were doing when I started my career, when Mr. Gururaja Upadhyaya started his career. And the most important thing is the building into the audit of greater analytical procedures. Along with basic auditing tools, the new trend is in terms of building more analytical capability. Whether it will simplify auditing, I am not sure. We are going to see some of the tools, we are going to see what it does. I am not very sure whether it's going to simplify auditing. There are two major developments, two buzzwords, if I may say, in the field of auditing in the context of technology. And those two buzzwords are big data and data analytics. We are going to take a little time looking at the fringe of what it means to us. And these are real. These are here in India. We are not talking about what will happen after 10 years or 15 years. We are talking about what is already happening. Big data refers to complex data coming from diverse sources. In the past, we thought auditing was about the books of accounts. With ERP, the audit went beyond the books of accounts. It went into all transactions that the company had with external entities. Now it will go even beyond that. It will go beyond the books of accounts, it will go beyond ERP. It will go into the realm of what is called the big data. Not merely the data from the company's database, but from myriad other sources. Use of, leave it madam, I got a bottle of water. Use of big data has great potential. We will see what kind of data we are talking about. All these will be part of the big data. Your emails, your social media pages. If you are on Facebook, the Facebook pages. If you are on LinkedIn, the LinkedIn pages. And a host of other sources of data. Now this will all be accessed and processed in the name of big data. Companies are beginning to realize that 90% of the transaction data is in the ERP of the company. But 90% of data which really matters is outside that. Because they are all in emails, they are on the responses on social media. People write about your company in the social media. Now that does not get into your ERP. Now the amount of emails that you get, that doesn't get into the ERP. So people are beginning to realize that what matters for running a company, the amount of data that is relevant for you, a lot of that is outside the sphere of ERPs, it's outside the sphere of books of accounts. So these have great potential. These data have great potential. So people have now started looking at it for gleaning information which one would have thought they were not interested. I've said that Ministry of Finance did that in the economic survey of 2 years back. What did they do? They got hold of all the railway receipts, RRs as we chartered accountants call them. They got hold of all the railway receipts, millions of them, put them through a big data exercise, churned them, and what did they get? Not nectar, but they churned it, and they got very useful information, not about the revenue of the railways from various commodities, not from about the revenues of the railways from various locations. They got information on the movement of product across the topography of India. And that went into the economic survey 2 years back. For the first time, by analyzing what is a very low level document, the railway receipt, what could be gleaned was not the amount of revenue, the amount of billing, was not the commodities that were being distributed, but what they got was knowledge about how goods move between different parts of the country. Knowledge that would come in very handy when you are looking at equitable distribution of products in future, or in terms of promoting or discouraging movement of particular types. Now this is an example. Huge amounts of data. The ideas are mind-boggling. We are all comfortable today with gigabytes, but then there are petabytes, which is 1 million gigabytes. Then there is a zettabyte, which is 1 million petabytes, and that's big data. Okay. Now we find it very difficult. When I started my career, whenever we had to do an analysis, manually of course in those days, we had a 13-column sheet. The 13-column sheet to us represented the ultimate in analysis. The 13-column sheet, I suppose, came up because you had data for 12 months and a total column. Okay, and that was the ultimate. Then it got into spreadsheets, and the early authors of spreadsheets, not Excel, which all of you are aware, but there were things like VisiCalc, SuperCalc and all that, which were the first ones to come in as spreadsheets. And there you had a maximum of 256 rows and 64 columns. Today, your Excel can take 1 million rows. Okay, so the concept of big data is changing. This is a very small tool, something that resides on your desktop memory. And if that can take this kind of data, then really the supercomputers, you can examine how much data they can take, and the cloud facilities, the infrastructure on the cloud, how much it can take. So what we are running into is this big data. Now the auditor will be dragged into this big data movement. Today big data is of great interest to the management because they want to look at patterns and so on. Tomorrow, let us say there was a series of social media exposures about a fraudulent transaction by the company, and the auditor doesn't take care of it. He is no fan of Facebook is no fan of, let's say, Facebook is really the one, because LinkedIn is slightly more stiff-collared. You may not get spicy news like that on LinkedIn. Okay, Facebook is a classic example. Now, or Twitter. Now, let's say he's not a great fan of that. He has never seen that. He has never seen the Facebook. And there are a series of exposures in Facebook about this particular company, about a fraudulent practice in that company. Now, in tomorrow's court proceedings, will the auditor be able to stand up and say, I took no notice, I was not aware that there were exposures in the Facebook? This is a big question mark. And if that is part of the big data which the company is looking at, because it could very well be, because all companies now are trying to screen what's coming up in the social media, screen what's coming up on the internet, and trying to capture that, put it into their big data to glean, information about customers' preferences, customers' pain areas, and so on. And that's good work. But what does that mean to the auditor? Because this is going to open up previously, he wouldn't have been aware. But now he will be aware, because there is a social media which jumps on it. Okay. Question mark. What will be the role of the auditor in a situation like that? Then we move on to data analytics. Data analytics is somewhat related to the concept of the big data. It's analyzing large amount of raw data with powerful analytical tools to draw conclusions and support decision making. Then you may say, what is new? We have been comparing current year figure with last year's figures. We have been comparing them with budget or forecast. We have been setting up ratios. We have been looking at trends. Now, what is special about this? This is an analytical process where insights are extracted. Please mark this word insight, because this is the buzzword again. That all these analytics are expected to provide you not information but insights from operational, financial and other forms of electronic data. And these insights can be historical, they can be real time, they can be predictive, and as we shall see later, it can also be prescriptive. So, you get a whole new way of looking at the data through the use of what is called the analytical tools, which comes under this heading of use of data analytics. They include statistical tools, cluster analysis, predictive models, data layering, visualization, what if analysis, and they use powerful software tools and complex statistical procedures. So if you have been, shall we say, escaping with 40 marks in statistics, you may have difficulty in the years to come, because a very sound background in statistics is called for. So if you have to catch up, please catch up now. Not mean median mode, but the real statistics, probability, design of experiment, test of hypothesis, and the whole lot of them. Because these analytical tools are built on that. In the use of analytics, of course, there are different levels. At the very elementary level, this could be descriptive. But what is descriptive? Meaning that you analyze the data and describe it and kind of say what conclusions you have arrived at. Not descriptive in the sense of it's being a text. Then what is catching the attention is predictive. People are not interested in interpreting the past results. They want to draw conclusions about what will happen in the future. Therefore, these analytical tools are building in predictive models. And you must be able to kind of predict what will happen if the same kind of facts were to continue. Then prescriptive. Having identified what will happen, what could be the kind of action that the organization can take? At the bottom of it all could be a very simple tool. Data analytics may be simple. It could be your spreadsheet software, your Excel. But it is a common finding that something like Excel has got something like 80,000 features, 80,000 functionalities, and the advanced user uses 300 of them. That's the kind of sophistication that we get into with Excel. Excel has enormous amount of functionality. It's growing by the day. But that could be an analytical tool. Then you have got querying software. Most of the audit software will fall into that category. You must have heard of IDEA, ACL, and all that, which was basically database querying tools. And that is the second category. The third category is directly using these generalized audit software, not merely for querying on the database, but for performing audit functions, like selecting a sample, can be done by ACL and IDEA. So some of the basic auditing procedures can be handled by this. And then you have what is known the BI tools. That is a big catchphrase today, the business intelligence tools. If you have not already started using them, please do start immediately, because it is later than you think. The tools have come into use, and the tools have come into use in a big way in Indian companies. Today you can't go to a corporate of any size, and if you ask them, are you using business intelligence tools? The answer is almost always yes. Then you have the more sophisticated ones, tools like SAS, programming languages like Hadoop. You have programming languages like Python, or it's a word you must have heard a lot on recently. Now all these are the prospects as they happen. I'm very conscious of the time that I need to finish this. Okay. Now, if you have any questions, of course, we can discuss after the session. There are different stages in the maturity in the use of analytics. It could remain ad hoc, that is used only when needed. Simple tools like Excel. It could be limited, that is use of audit tools with analytics built in, like IDEA, ACL. These are basically audit tools, but there's also a module on analytics. Integrated, which is with the data sets that you require for analysis, like environmental data, market data, and so on, built into the database, and you have the sophisticated BI tools. And the more advanced ones, which are predictive, prescriptive capabilities. So if you are if you want to get into the use of that, step number one obviously is use of Excel as an analytical tool. You may be using Excel as a computational tool, but you can use Excel as an analytical tool. And there are products like ClickView. For example, in my firm we use ClickView. Tableau is something which is becoming very popular elsewhere. There is a study by Gartner, and the Gartner study indicates that the order of ranking of BI tools is Tableau first, Power BI by Microsoft second, and ClickView third. That is the kind of rating by the Gartner study. So these are coming in. These are all coming to India. I'll also give you later about the money part, because I'm sure some of you must be thinking, oh my God, this must be for the billion-dollar companies. Mr. Murali is talking about the very big corporations. He is not talking about small companies. He's not talking about SMPs. I'm going to talk about SMPs, the small and medium practitioners. These are tools which are available, affordable for the small and medium practitioner, and that is a big plus point about them. We will see that as we go along. And then there, of course, the stage 3, very sophisticated use of data objects, product called Hyperion, which is generally described as a white elephant because it costs such a lot that excepting the very large company, others can't afford. SAS, and these are all also integrated with ERP systems. Now, what's the impact, let's say, of these data analytics? You are all aware of SA 315. I put SA 315 because that is the genesis. SA 315, identifying, assessing risks of material misstatement through understanding the entity and its environment. I'm sure that all of you have gone through it in great detail. Now this talks about computer assisted audit techniques. That word is gone. You please Google and find out whether you can get that word in operation in today's literature, either on management or on computers. It's gone. It's dead analytics today. Now 315 is now getting revised because the IWSB, I had it somewhere, I don't know. The IWSB, I have got here. IWSB has set up a working group on data analytics. Now they are going to revise the accounting standards, particularly 315, to reflect this new environment for auditing standards, what you should look at in terms of environment, understanding environment. Because of the widespread use of data analytics. What can the auditor do with this data analytics? He can test for unauthorized entries. He can test for duplicates, duplicate vendors, duplicate employees. If suddenly a dormant account becomes alive, it can be trapped. If there are particular values which are getting repeated, it can find it out. If there are transactions with suspicious descriptions, it can pick them up. It can check whether the segregation of duties in terms of authority to pass particular type of vouchers, whether that's being followed. And it can look at trends and probability. All this is possible with this BI tools. Let us look at one such application, very interesting. This is called the Benford's law. Students, I don't know whether you have heard of this. This is named after the physicist Frank Benford. Specifically it says that in data sets, the leading digit, that is if you have, let's say, 1 million vouchers, the leading digit, the first digit in the amount column, it is distributed in a specific non-uniform way. You should think that the numbers 0 will not occur in the numeric field. So the numbers 1 to 9 must occur with equal number of occurrences. It doesn't happen. That there is a pattern about the occurrence of the first digit. It can vary in your business, it can vary from business to business, but given a particular environment, this distribution of the first digits of, let us say, voucher amounts follows a certain distribution. Okay, a certain frequency distribution. And right from the beginning, the proponents of Bedford's law have suggested that it will be a beneficial tool for fraud detection. And let us see how. A recent example of the use of Benford's law is a research which showed that Benford's law can be used as an indicator of accounting and expense frauds. How? One fraudster wrote numerous checks to himself just below US dollars 100,000. That is, there is a limit, LOA, limits of authority. He cannot approve the voucher above $100,000. So he wrote a large number of checks below $100,000 because just to escape it. And how did Benford's law find it out? It found that it caused digits 7, 8, 9 occurring in a very unusual number of times in the various vouchers. You know, this is human greed. You are allowed to draw up to 100,000. Okay. Now, you don't want to draw for 500,000. You don't want to draw for 50,000. The human greed makes sure that you will draw for 90,000. Okay. That is, they are very close to that limit. If the fellow was, let's say, more sensible and distributed it over various amounts, 10,000 to 90,000, probably he could have got away with it. But human greed being what it is, he wrote a large number of them in the 70,000, 80,000, 90,000 categories. Benford's law came into existence. This is done in a jiffy by the business analytics software. You can look at the probability distribution of the first number occurring, and you can look at the actual vouchers. You can find out whether this is matching. Now, if it is not matching, then there is a question mark. And the predictive part will come, because it expects that the future vouchers as they flow will be in this order. So you will not only be able to take action on your past, shall we say, aberration, but you will be able to prevent future aberrations. Because if there is a run of values that are out of sync with this pattern, now you can get a warning signal. That is predicted. Okay. So let us look at what it means to the small and medium practitioner. Many practitioners fall into that category. So we must look at its relevance for the small and medium practitioners. The normal syndrome is that data analytics is very useful, but too costly for us. It calls for heavy investment in hardware and software. That's a common belief. With reference to hardware, cloud technology provides the relief for the assembly. As you know, in a cloud technology, you pay by use, and you don't have to pay by the equipment. You have to pay only for today's use. When your usage goes up, you will pay more in the future, but you don't have to invest upfront. So the cloud technology gives you access to hardware at a cost which is affordable. There are BI tools available with cloud versions. For example, a product called ClickSense. I refer to ClickView. The cloud version of that is called ClickSense. Now you would like to know, all right, I mean, it's very nice to know all this, but what does it cost? ClickSense, a license to use ClickSense, a single license to use ClickSense, costs you $15 per month. Okay, costs you just $15 per month. $180 per year, let's say about 12,000 rupees. That's all it costs. So if you are a small practice with, let us say, 3 partners actively using this tool, some 2 senior assistants who are also using this tool, so 5 people, something like 50,000, 60,000 per year is the budget. So if you are not using the tool, the reason is not the cost. I am trying to establish that. Okay. If it is not widely used, the reason is not the cost. It has great power. It can do analysis of this type which you are saying. It can enable you to look at the data, visualize it, understand it. There is a new term that's coming into the area that's called visualization. Now, how do you visualize the data? How do you look at the shape of that data? A lot of things you understand. You understand even with Excel. There's no doubt. In fact, you work long enough on Excel, you do see patterns in data, and it does help. But these are much more powerful tools, and they have excellent statistical capabilities, forecasting models, and the rest of them. Excel has that. Excel has got multiple regression, which we don't use. It has got scenario building, which we don't use. There are a lot of things which we don't use, but Excel provides. But these tools are even more powerful, and these are extremely affordable. So it is not the cost. Cloud has got you that very clearly. Then you have this development about cyber security audit. This is an assessment of the organization's cyber security policies and procedures and their operating effectiveness. Does it happen that those policies and procedures are followed? They are not followed. Why cyber security is of great concern? Because every company today is connected to the sky. Okay. Now everything is done from the sky, from the cloud. So you need security, and this goes by breach. And there is an interesting story. The Pentagon, the Department of Defense in the US, failed its first ever audit in 2018. This is a 2.7 trillion organization. Budget for 2018 is $700 billion. Huge agency covering multiple branches of the military, costly weaponry system, and large pool of personnel. Several military bases at home and abroad. Troops deployed in far-flung locations, Afghanistan included. Audit team of 1,200 auditors went into this audit. So they failed. So what was the explanation? The explanation is very interesting because the Americans are always good at explaining away many things. So they first said we failed the audit, but we never expected to pass it. Okay, we never expected to pass it. Now what does it mean? They say that the audit was not a pass-fail process. That it was not intended to tell you whether you pass or fail. It was intended to kind of tell you about the effectiveness of your procedures. And they took solace in the fact that we did not receive an adverse finding. Pentagon did not receive an adverse finding. The lowest possible category in any area, because that's the worst kind of audit comment. But we did receive findings of disclaimer in several areas. What does it mean? The auditors refused to give an opinion. The controls were so poor that the auditors refused to express an opinion. Okay. Now, I have brought this example for two reasons. One is that cyber security is an area, because two of the areas requested for improvement. One is cyber security, because they found that cyber security policies and procedures which are in place are not adequate and they are not being followed. Effectiveness. There is adequacy, there is effectiveness. Adequacy is that whether the policies and procedures are good enough. Effectiveness is whether they are followed. Then the second one is interesting. Improving inventory accuracy. So from the, shall we say, esoteric cyber security down to earth inventory security. Now that is also a matter of concern. Why I am saying this? When you get into this new technology, you can get carried away. You will think that all the problems of the company which you are auditing is only in the realms of, let's say, cyber security in terms of, shall we say, information system controls and so on. But some very basic things also fail, along with cyber security. And that basic thing is inventory accuracy, which should have been capable of being maintained irrespective of cyber security. Then we go to an interesting topic called artificial intelligence. We won't have time to go through it in detail, but I'll just give you a flavor of what this would mean for the auditor. Auditors, particularly internal auditors, are expected to be the first one to be replaced if AI becomes popular. Why? Because they find that audit processes are highly repetitive and they are heavily rule bound, and therefore it is easier to replace a human being with a machine in these areas. And whatever we claim is the value that we build by experience, machine learning will do that. The machines will learn. Artificial intelligence is about that. So they will acquire the necessary intelligence. And one of the prime candidates for being replaced when AI becomes a reality is the auditor, poor internal auditor. What will happen to the statutory auditor is a different question. There are other technologies which are also impacting audit, and we'll just mention them because we don't have time. I'll finish in another 2 minutes. There are other technologies impacting audit. One is robotic process automation, RPA, as it is affectionately called, which is performing audit processes by robots. For the same reason I mentioned it about artificial intelligence. Many audit processes may be capable of being done by robots. Then there is this Internet of Things, you are aware. You can be in the office, switch off the refrigerator in your house. You can switch off the air conditioner half an hour before you come to your house. All that you have heard the fables about this. Now what it means to the auditor, if assets are getting shifted, it can capture that. Because the Internet of Things will tell you, that a machine which was supposed to be in, let us say, location A is not there. It can also track and find out where it is. Just imagine a business getting into insolvency proceedings. The unscrupulous promoter is trying to move the assets out of the business. Now, Internet of Things will find it out. Okay. If you had planned for it, obviously. RFID could have found it out. Questionable, because RFID has, as a technology, has its limitations. Then this is very interesting. It has happened in a company in India. Drone technology. I do audit for cement companies. So I know the problem. Stock taking is a nightmare. Because there are huge piles of material, limestone, gypsum, coal, what have you. And you can't weigh them. And you are supposed to go by volumetric measurements. And then multiply by density factor and the bulk density factor, and you get the weight in tons. This is the way it has been done. Some companies use ultrasonic technology, but that is unsatisfactory to a large extent. One company in North India has used drone technology. You have only heard of drones flying over Pakistan and booking the rebel, leader. Now, that's one use of drone. There are military drones. Now, here is a more peaceful use of drone. The drone will fly over that area and take aerial three-dimensional photographs. And you can therefore arrive at perfect volumetric measurements of the type you can never imagine, never be able to do in a normal environment, because the shapes are irregular. Anybody who has done stock audit for coal or bulk materials will realize that it is simply not possible. You can't tell the company, you can't tell your company or your client that please arrange all of them. Now it's just not possible. You can use bulldozers, they will try to make some, bring them to some shape, but in reality it's very difficult. They can't do a great job of that. Now here is technology. And those drone photographs can be in such great detail that they can be translated into volumetric measurements easily. You can even build them into the software. And like that many more. So technology will change the face of auditing. In your times, the young people who are seated at the back, in your times, auditing will not be the same. So whatever you read in the books today as auditing, now they would all have changed. That's the whole problem. The problem with all of us is that, senior people is that. Now we tell you something which we learned from our mentors 30 years back, who lived their life 30 years back, 30 years earlier. And you are going to live your lives 30 years from now. So some of the advice is 90 years too old. Okay. Now, it is very clear that auditing will not be the same. And again this idea comes up. Will the auditor get replaced? I said that at least in one area, routine auditors, the auditor will get replaced. There is no doubt about it. It will get replaced by artificial intelligence tools, it will get replaced by robots. There is no doubt about that. Routine audit, like watching, posting, checking, stock, etc. It will get replaced. But the more intelligent audit processes, the analytical auditing, will not get replaced. But you can't go home happy with that, because the danger, as we see, there appears to be little danger, at least in the short run, of the auditor being replaced by technology tools. But there is grave danger of an auditor being replaced by another auditor who understands and uses technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the PP Gururaja Upadhyaya Memorial Lecture. First of all, our gratitude to the president of this function, President Bhupati sir, who has highlighted the importance of the concept of a memorial lecture and sharing the qualities of the great personality like Gururaja Upadhyaya ji, and the association, the 5-stage association which he had with Gururaja ji. And second part of his presidential address, the messages to the students, not only to the messages to the students, but to everyone present in the audience, like controlling mind and focused attention and connecting with the people. It is not only to the students, but for each and everyone, the connection with the people is important. So thank you so much, sir, and your valuable advice for using the credit card and how we should limit ourselves with these financial commitments, particularly this EMI. And to our Murali Prasad sir, we have no words in our vocabulary to express the flow of knowledge which has emanated from him, and the way in which he has covered the technology landscape, comparing our the new regulator like NFRA with the experience of US, United States of America, and the concepts like big data and the Benford law, with appropriate case studies, even a layman like me can appreciate and understand, sir, and the importance on of the artificial intelligence and the new technologies, which really it is having going to have a very great impact on this auditing essay process, auditing essay certifying process. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable guidance for this through this Gururaja Upadhyaya Memorial Lecture. And now we would like to express our gratitude by presenting some mementos to the dignitaries. And I request our present Central Council member MP Vijay Kumar sir to come forward to present a memento to our former president, our R. Bhubadi sir. And I request R. Bhubadi Sivakumar sir, who is instrumental for this memorial lecture, and requesting the dignitaries for this lecture to come on dais to join MPVG for this memento distribution. Really, for Sivakumar sir, we should not express gratitude, sir, because he is a friend, philosopher and guide for the activities of the SIRC. I request P. Rajendra Kumar sir to come forward to present a memento to our CA Murali Prasad sir, and I request R. Sivakumar sir also to MPVG also to join kindly. I request CAG Saraswati Madam to present a memento to I request G. Saraswati Madam to come for a formal vote of thanks for this.
Good evening to one and all. I am really honored to be accompanying past President Mr. Bhupati sir and the knowledgeable Sri Murali Prasad on the dais. I am accepting the privilege of being Mr. Upadhyaya's daughter, also a student of him. On behalf of my family, I really thank the Institute for continuously arranging for the memorial lectures. It has happened mainly because Mr. Sri Kumar, along with Mr. Another staff, sir, Mr. Krishnamurthy, our Srinivasan, who started the idea, and many students of his have contributed to the fund, readily contributed to the fund, and the institute has been carrying on this arrangement almost continuously year after year. Some in between 1 or 2 years, I think it was missed out. And I really thank on behalf of my family. And Sir Bhupati sir, thank you sir for bringing out the values of my father. And actually, to reiterate whatever you said, to quote my father also, he used to say to the students, please write and practice. Unless you write and practice, you will not be able to do well in your exams, how much ever you prepare. But unless you write and practice, you will not be able to really perform well. He has brought out that particular advice of my father also today. And Sir Murli Prasad sir, your lecture was really highly informative and very interesting also. I am sure all of us are going to go back and see that we take up more lessons on the data analytical tools, and we update ourselves on the technology side so that our future is bright. All of us as students or as practitioners also, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
One thing I forgot to tell, in the work-life balance which I mentioned, one day in Delhi, the council meeting was to end by 1 o'clock. It got postponed, it got deferred to evening 6 o'clock. And then he said, okay, today I am going to miss my Hindi serial, Junoon. I understand that he used to regularly watch that serial, and but he stayed till the end, till the council meeting was over, and we all travelled together. But he was really missing that. We are not having the facilities which we have today of taping and seeing it later on, recording it and seeing it later. So the work-life balance. Although he was serious in his work, he had his time for his personal things also. That's very great.
Thank you very much, sir.
Our sincere thanks to the members who have participated, attended this program, and the students also for attending this program. I request everyone to stand up for the national anthem.